Ontario's Solicitor General visits the site of the new $1.2 billion correctional centre. Good evening and thank you for joining us. Michael Kersner toured the construction site of the new Thunder Bay Correctional Complex today.
The facility is still on schedule to be finished in 2026. It will replace the century-old district jail and the existing correctional center on Highway 61. Kersner insists it will provide relief to an overcrowded correctional system. Vasilios Bellos was with Kersner today. Vasilios, what did he say to back up that claim?
Yeah, Kersner was saying that the new 345-bed facility will provide immediate support, while programming for inmates will prevent reoffending. It comes as local corrections union heads have been supportive of the project, while still fearing it won't be enough to address the high number of inmates here. An Ontario minister visited the site of the province's largest single investment in the history of Thunder Bay.
Our pillar of public safety is absolute and constant.
Solicitor General Michael Kersner was at the construction site of the new 345-bed correctional complex off Highway 61, thanks to a $1.2 billion provincial investment. The big project began in 2022 and is expected to be completed in 2026, coming after a separate 50-bed modular expansion opened last year, also the result of provincial funding. Kersner pointed to programming at the new center as a way of providing long-term support to the community by preventing reoffending.
We rely on the Native Inmate Liaison Officers, those amazing NALOs. We rely on the people that do the programming so that the skills and the programs that they attend here will help prepare them for community reintegration. In the end of the day, when that happens, we reduce the rates of recidivism back into our communities. That's a goal that we have.
The construction can't be completed soon enough for a system that's seen significant inmate overcrowding for many years. It's led to mental health challenges for both corrections officers and those inmates, with local union officials previously stating their fear the facility won't be large enough. Kersner was asked about those concerns.
We're continuing to look at our capacity numbers in northwestern Ontario, and we'll continue to assess it. But again, I stress here, $1.2 billion investment that's helping the local community where people will have permanent jobs, and we're delighted that so many construction jobs have been created, and we're going to stand 100% with the people of Northwest Ontario.
All right, we apologize for an audio issue there at the end of that report. That was Vasilios Bellos reporting. Anishinaabe police are investigating a tragic incident in Casablanca Lake First Nation. A 19-year-old man has died after an all-terrain vehicle rolled over on Friday evening. The victim was brought to the community's nursing station. Despite life-saving efforts, he couldn't be saved. NAPS officials say they believe it was a single vehicle collision. The circumstances of the crash are still under investigation.
A provincial watchdog is shining light on the hospital staffing crisis in the Rainy River area.
The Ontario Health Coalition held a news conference today, hoping to convince officials in Toronto to respond to the dire situation. All of the small town's doctors have announced that they'll leave the hospital in just 2 weeks. Lee Noonan has the latest details.
There are 3 doctors staffing both the hospital and the clinic in Rainy River, but not for long. They will all be leaving the hospital at the end of the month. In the meantime, the ambulance base in nearby Emo has been slated for an indefinite closure.
It's just a terrible, terrible thing that's happened, and there needs to be some significant changes in order because otherwise people are going to die. It's that dire.
The Ontario Health Coalition organized a virtual news conference to draw attention to the crisis. Executive Director Natalie Mera says she's afraid it still won't be enough to grab the headlines and the attention of those in power.
I feel kind of sick about it, frankly, Randy. I don't think we do enough to raise these issues, but because there should be a spotlight on what's happening in Northern Ontario. It is terrible. It's unprecedented. It's terrible. It absolutely puts people's lives at risk.
The Emo EMS base is actually one of few in the Rainy River District that's fully staffed, but it's being closed in order to relocate the staff and keep other bases open.
We're no longer treading water and we're starting to drown.
Malcolm Daly, local union president representing healthcare workers in the district, says the overtime paramedics are putting in is astronomical, but that the closure leaves people in Emo unprotected.
Not only the town of Emo, but multiple other townships, Barwick, Chapel, two First Nations communities, Rainy River First Nation and the Catchaweenan First Nation, as well as multiple industrial sites, having their access to emergency pre-hospital care increased by 100%. I mean, we're talking about doubling the time that someone has access to paramedic services.
Rainy River Mayor Deb Ewald is also chair of the Rainy River District Social Services Board, which oversees the EMS service. She says the closure is a temporary measure. She's hoping they'll find more staff once word gets out that they are so badly needed.
If we lose 2 more paramedics, we can't operate. We don't have the staff to operate, period.
Ewald is also concerned about the Rainy River Clinic. One doctor will be staying on at the clinic until the end of November, but there's no plan after that. And hospital officials say they have found enough temporary doctors to keep the ER open until late November, but there's no long-term solutions yet there either. Lee Noonan, TBT News.
The province's Special Investigations Unit is looking into the death of a 59-year-old Pickle Lake man after he was arrested by OPP in that community. Last Wednesday, officers were dealing with a group of people when one of them went into medical distress. EMS arrived and medically cleared him, and the man was arrested, but he went into medical distress again at the OPP detachment. He was airlifted to Thunder Bay and died in hospital on Saturday. 3 SIU investigators have been assigned to the case.
The Regional Food Distribution Association says it's struggling to keep up with the growing demand. That'll be the focus of an RFDA deputation to City Council tonight. A report from the organization says food bank usage has increased 33% in just the past year. The RFDA fears it may have to eliminate home deliveries unless it finds more funding. Also during the meeting, the recommendation to scrap the majority of the James Whalen tug after the item was pulled from last week's agenda. The vessel's bridge, stack, and some railing could be preserved for future display. It's expected to cost $540,000 if Council moves forward with that option.
Ontario's Financial Accountability Office is investigating the government's decision to expand alcohol sales into corner stores.
The beer store's exclusive deal with the province was set to expire in 2025, but the government made an arrangement so that convenience stores could start selling alcohol this year early. CTV's Siobhan Morris reports.
As Ontarians reach into their convenience store case for a cold brew, the province's Financial Accountability Officer is diving into the numbers behind the deal that made it happen more than a year ahead of schedule. The report coming at the request of the Liberal finance critic.
We've estimated it to be about $1 billion, and the government is saying it will be much less, and we think that the public has the right to know what this accelerating this deal will really cost the taxpayers of Ontario.
Taxpayers are on the hook for $225 million to stabilize the beer store through this transition. There are questions about other payments, foregone revenue. Bowman hopes to get to the bottom of the government's reasoning, too.
Why are you doing this when you're doing it, when the agreement would come to an end in a year?
The FAO expects to share what it's found early in the new year, but that depends on government cooperation. A spokesperson for the finance minister says they look forward to that report, that the government's confident the LCBO's revenues will continue to grow as it becomes the wholesaler of booze for retail, bars, and restaurants.
We have a healthcare system's on the verge of collapse. We have an education system that's underfunded. We have a housing crisis. The government should be spending precious public dollars on the real needs of Ontarians.
Speaking in Windsor, the Premier called this a good deal, then flipped to attacking Liberal leader Bonnie Crombie.
She doesn't believe in putting beer and wine in a corner store, and she just wants to add to the cost of a bottle of beer.
A claim Crombie and her party have called a desperate lie.
A Liberal government opened up alcohol sales, so we're not against the idea.
CTV political analyst Scott Reed thinks what the FAO may say about motivation matters.
He wanted the refrigerators filled when people were going to the polls in a few months.
While the premier shut down the possibility of an election this year, Reed says count on a provincial vote before a nationwide one.
He doesn't want to deal with the Prime Minister, Pierre Poilievre. He knows that Canadians are very comfortable in Ontario voting one way provincially, one way federally.
An equation Doug Ford wants to stay on the right side of. Siobhan Morris, CTV News.
OPP have charged a pair of motorists with stunt driving over the past few days here in the Northwest region. One of the incidents occurred on the Thunder Bay Expressway. OPP say the driver was caught traveling 151 kilometers an hour in a 90K zone. The driver received a 30-day license suspension and a 14-day vehicle impoundment. The other incident happened in Dryden on Saturday. A car was clocked at 143 in a 90K zone. The driver was charged with stunt driving and the passenger had their vehicle impounded. OPP say these speeds are unacceptable and endanger everyone on the highway.
Those who need to access the city landfill from Oliver Road will have to take a different route over the next week and a half. A portion of Maple Ward Road was closed today for the rehabilitation. Anyone heading to the solid waste and recycling facility is advised to take the detour along Grattan Road or head down John Street Road and turn south onto Maple Ward instead. City Engineering Manager Matthew Miedema says vehicle access is only permitted to residents who live on that section of Maple Ward. The work is part of a $600,000 two-year project to upgrade the pavement along the busy route.
We were here a couple weeks ago doing the drainage works, so starting this week we're continuing with the pavement rehabilitation work. So we're starting with the removal of asphalt today. Behind me is the pulverizer, so we're grinding the asphalt in place. Following that, we'll be grading the road with a granular A and then placing 2 less of asphalt pavement.
The work is expected to be finished by the middle of next week, depending on the weather.
A flag raising was held today at City Hall to remember local Indigenous women who are missing or were murdered. The ceremony is part of the annual Full Moon Memory Walk, which goes tomorrow morning. By flying the flag at City Hall, organizer Sharon Johnson hopes to raise awareness about the high number of Indigenous people of any gender that are missing or murdered and honor the memory of those who've been lost. People like Johnson's little sister, Sandra, who was murdered 32 years ago. That case, like many others, is still unsolved.
Well, I guess it's always our hope that, some information will, somebody will remember something, in regards to a family member that was last seen, like the location or somebody they might have been with, or, that something like that might come out of this as well.
Johnson says everyone is invited to the Full Moon Memory Walk, but she particularly hopes to see those who have also lost loved ones join in and find support and community. The walk starts just before 7 a.m. with a sunrise ceremony along the Nebing-McIntyre floodway off of Island Drive. It ends with a breakfast at the Roots Community Food Center.
Marina Park was alive with music on Saturday thanks to the 5th annual Wake the Giant Music Festival.
The event, which helps welcome Indigenous youth to the city, drew thousands of people to the waterfront. Jessica Clement was there.
Saturday's lineup for Wake the Giant was packed with a mix of local favorites as well as some big names in the music scene to help celebrate the festival's 5th year. Hometown hero Coleman Hell was the afternoon headliner. He played an hour-long set that included his newer music, along with more familiar tunes. Hell previously performed at the first Wake the Giant festival back in 2019 and said it was an honor to be back.
So important. It's really exciting to see how much it's grown and blossomed since the first time I played it. And just, playing in front of my hometown, my friends, my family, all the beautiful people that live here. I mean, nothing compares to it.
DJ Shub followed Hell's performance and was joined by a jingle dress dancing group that featured students from Dennis Franklin Cromartie High School. The festival is the end of a 3-day orientation for Indigenous youth who travel from remote communities to Thunder Bay to attend school. The students are involved in all aspects of the event. Tessa Harper, a DFC graduate, was this year's MC as well as the designer of the posters and shirts. She says over the years, Wake the Giant has helped her come out of her shell.
First year, I used to be like one of the shyest, quietest kids you ever in the back, and now I'm an MC this year and I'm like the designer of the posters. So from a student perspective, this festival, the more you let it help you, the more it does.
The Arkells finished off the night and got the crowd rocking out to their various hits, including Leather Jacket.
They're incredible. Like they're really top of the heap in terms of music right now. Canadian music specifically. We are ecstatic to have them here, and they're kind of Canada's sweethearts right now.
Co-organizer AJ Hapa says the 5th annual Wake the Giant was a huge success, and he hopes they'll be able to continue it year after year. He adds that the festival does a lot for the youth coming into the community.
I think that our kids are feeling safer and more welcome when they come to town to go to school for 9 months a year. This is also a vehicle for the community at large to learn a little more about First Nations culture and history and traditions, and we're able to infuse a little more of that every year.
An estimated 5,000 people were in attendance on Saturday. Jessica Clement, TBT News.
What a great event that is. And in that vein, Thunder Bay continues to keep Terry Fox's legacy alive as the Lakehead Rotarians hosted the 44th annual Terry Fox Run yesterday. Participants endured the 26-degree heat and joined scores of people around the world running for cancer research. This year's run looked a little bit different. Participants started and ended at the Current River Community Center, traveling back and forth along the east side of Boulevard Lake. Over the years, the local branch has raised nearly $700,000 through donations and pledges, with all proceeds going to the Terry Fox Foundation. 8-year-old Lilia Irwin and her family raised over $1,400 for the 5-kilometer event. She says she's running for her grandma.
People who had cancer or who is having cancer right now deserve money to get better.
As everybody knows, Terry's run ended in Thunder Bay. So I think Thunder Bay's always had strong support for the Terry Fox Run. You see it every year in terms of money raised and people coming out. And I can't see that changing. I think every year it'll continue the same event.
Donations to the Terry Fox Foundation can be made online at terryfox.org.
Thunder Bay welcomed another centenarian this past weekend as Annette Porter Conrad celebrated her 100th birthday.
Happy birthday to you! Happy birthday, dear Annette! Happy birthday to you!
Porter Conrad hit a milestone not many people achieve in their lifetime, and she was able to celebrate the day with her friends and family. City Councillor Dominic Pasqualino also stopped by to meet the birthday girl and give her a certificate on behalf of the mayor and council. Porter Conrad said the special day brought a lot of emotions and fond memories, and she has some advice for younger generations.
There's a lot of things you can do, but stay on the straight side and be kind to people. I feel very, very emotional, but I also feel it's bringing back things that I had forgotten about 100 years. And I was in my early 20s when I got married.
Well, my mom grew up through the war, and she's gone through like so many changes in her lifetime. Her and my dad were from Manitoba. They met when my dad was in the Army, and they ended up moving to Thunder Bay because my dad wanted to come here to play hockey.
Well, 100 years is pretty amazing. It's not too many people you get to know at 100 years old and tell all their stories and listen to them. It's pretty interesting.
Oh yeah, happy birthday, Annette. 100 years is, in fact, very amazing. All right, let's turn our attention to the weather now, Fiona, and maybe some differing opinions on whether this heat and humidity is amazing as we are now into mid-September.
Well, I don't know. I'm pretty amazed for this time of year. We had a low of 16 and a high of 29 and a humidex of 37. I am definitely amazed for September the 16th. We had some increasing clouds, but there is a system to the west, and that pushed through Fort Francis, giving a heavy but brief thunderstorm. Also, it still has the potential to bring more to the west. Right now, it's really causing temperatures to drop a little bit just west of Thunder Bay, Fort Francis. Once again, getting sunshine, but it is brief. And Greenstone also under sunny skies. Here's where that system is being felt. So you can see the way it cools things down. Right now, the humidex is ranging in the high 20s to low 30s. But earlier today, it actually ranged from 29 in Red Lake all the way to 36 in Fort Francis. It was a scorcher across the region. Tonight, we will drop down to 14 Celsius, mainly cloudy. There is a 40% chance of showers this evening, and overnight, there's also a risk of a thunderstorm with it. And as I said, that system right now, it's kind of split. It's got ebbs and flows because it's two parts. So tonight we're looking at one part, but there's another part that could push through, giving us a slight risk of rain. So we're not out of the line of fire just yet.
Okay, thanks a lot, Fiona. All right, let's turn our attention to national politics. After the break, Parliament is back in session in Ottawa, and it comes with some newfound pressure on the Trudeau government after the NDP pulled its supply and confidence deal over the break. We'll have details on that and more right after the break when we return.
Instead of a reckless plan to hike the tax to 61 cents a litre, why not allow Canadians to vote to axe the tax?